Let's go to a call here. Let's go to William from Minneapolis, first time caller. He wants to sound off on the conversation around Black politicians. What's up, William?
Hey, good afternoon, Clay. How you doing, brother?
Doing good.
Good, man. Love your show. I love Reese. Whenever I see you on YouTube, Roland Martin, or even on Twitter, I always tune in. And El Joy, I tune into your show all the time. My question for you is I take slight issue with this assertion that politicians always have to moderate. Folks have their opinions about them, but Cornel West was on Charles Blow's show a while back, and he said moderation is never an appropriate response for Black suffering. And I feel like, we as a community aren't expecting our politicians to echo the activists, right? We're not expecting them to go as hard as the activists go, but what's a point of frustration is I feel like that many of them give ground to moderation and moving to the center too quickly, and it's at our expense. How is moderation working for you, Cory Booker? Last time I checked, Tim Scott just whooped your ass. How is moderation working for you, Jim Clyburn? Like it's not an expectation that if you're in the Senate that you go as hard as Cori Bush, but the fact that you can't, or the fact that the perception is that you can't go as hard as Cori Bush or Jamal Bowman, and if you do so, or you're going to suffer politically, that's a problem. All we want you to do is speak truth to power. We know the system. Thanks to all three of you, we know the system. We know the system. We're expecting you to speak truth to power, and unfortunately, I think sometimes, some of our politicians don't do that. Cedric Richmond, where you at? I haven't heard shit from Cedric Richmond. I love what y'all do.
Okay, go ahead, Eljoy. Then we'll go to Reese.
So here's where I'm going to do a little civics lesson, adding on to brother's comment. There is a difference between an executive level elected official and a body elected official, right? So if you are the governor, the mayor, the county executive, things of that nature, you have, even the president, right? You have tools at your disposal that you are able to not only speak truth to power, because I don't want everybody to just speak. I want them to act, right? So you have the ability to not only speak truth to power, but also take action on certain things. That's different than, say, Congress or your state legislator or others. Cory can't do stuff by himself. Cory still has to not only write the legislation, get the legislation written, but he has to get buy-in from the people of his party. He has to get buy-in from the speaker in order to bring it up for a vote. He has to get buy-in from other people in order to get it voted on and done. So yes, it would be great to have Cory, speak truth to power, use the actual words, stand up on the floor and say, we're going to pass reparations and we're going to do this, but where he going to get the votes from? Where's he going to get the support from the speaker or others to actually bring the vote up for it to be done, right? That's different than an executive level elected official who has some tools at their resources, like the president is able to do different things, the governor able to do different things, right? So I think when we're talking about that grace, we're realizing the landscape. Similar situation that we talked about in the Democrats being able to do something on voting rights, right? We continue to push to make the environment ripe for voting rights to happen, but also acknowledging the fact that, the Congress, individual congressional members and the Senate members can't do it by themselves, right? So it's like, how do we continue to put pressure? Who are the levers that we put pressure on in order to get it done? Now, that's not a wholesale excuse for congressional members, for Senate members, your state legislator, or others for not actually bringing it to the table, for not putting stronger language. What we are explaining, though, is that they are using the tools at their resources, and part of being a part of a body is that you have to get buy-in from other people. You can't just do it alone. And so that's the grace that we're talking about, is that recognition that they have to do all of these other things in order to get it across the finish line.
Reese, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, okay, first of all, let me be clear. I wasn't saying that politicians should not speak out on issues. What my issue is with this soundbite culture. My issue is with this litmus test where we judge people based on this checklist of the talking points they have to hit. You know what I'm saying? Instead of judging their record, judging the entirety of what they present. You know, like you said, is Vice President Kamala Harris going to say the country that she's vice president of is a racist country? Of course not. That would be fucking stupid for her to say that she's vice president. I know that will make people feel good. Well, why can't she say that? Because she's vice president. That's why. It's just that simple. You know what I'm saying? But don't say, well, she didn't say that. I told you she ain't for us, this, that, and the other. But then you have nothing to say, and you don't recognize the work that she's done around Black maternal mortality, the work that she's doing around removing lead pipes, which disproportionately impacts our community, and a slew of things. I could go on and on and on. You know, one of the topics today is bail reform. She introduced ending cash bail in the Senate. And so when you have a person who has the receipts, my thing is focus on the receipts, focus on what they're actually doing, as opposed to always saying, I saw this in a clip, I saw this in a meme, I saw this on a caption, and now I'm all spun up and I'm pissed off, when the reality is that person really is fighting for us. You know, if you want to talk about Cory Booker being moderate, Cory Booker is the one who sponsors the HR 40 Commission for reparations. Cory Booker has he's a solid progressive. You know, if you want to talk about, well, what did you get with the George Floyd bill? Nothing. You want to know why? Because he didn't say toss out qualified immunity, toss this out, toss that out.
Yeah,
you know,
he didn't compromise.
Yeah, he didn't compromise. And so if they were compromising, would have just been passing Tim Scott's version of it. So my whole thing is that we have to decide, do you want to compromise and get something, or do you want people to grandstand and hit all of the talking points and walk away with nothing? I personally would have said, okay, well, whatever you can get it. That's my attitude, because right now you don't have shit, you know? So if you don't get qualified immunity, then that's a battle for another day. When it comes to $15 minimum wage, well, if y'all have consensus on $11, get $11. That's better than $7.25. You know, if you can't get 3 trillion, get 1 trillion. That's my attitude. I understand that's not a popular attitude, but my thing is keep making progress on what you can make progress on. If you have to compromise, a compromise is better than nothing on most times. Sometimes it's not. I can recognize it's not 100% of the time it's not, but we got to start looking at the actions and what people are fighting for and what they're doing, as opposed to just, I saw, and I'm not saying that's what the caller was saying, that he's only seen the clip, but you also have to recognize that the clips that you see are curated for a specific response. You know, it wasn't viral when Cory Booker, Senator Cory Booker, went off on Rand Paul's ass for blocking the anti-lynching legislation. You know, so I would certainly not put Cory Booker as a moderate. You know, and Jim Clyburn, people can call him a moderate, but he's gotten a lot of shit done, you know? So I think that, you know, we have a culture, we have a state of being now where it's so much more emphasis put on what people say and not as much on what people are doing.
You know what bothers me? And I hear the caller, and what's frustrating for me is me and the caller might be on the same page, right?
Yeah.
Although I still stand by, there's just certain things folks aren't going to be able to say. But when we do have candidates who are not about moderation, they don't get support. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows, people got tired of me saying it, my guy was Secretary Julian Castro.
Right.
He was the first one to have a Black agenda in January of 2019, I believe it was. He spoke out explicitly. The secretary, and mind you, he even passed the purity test. There was nothing you could really criminalize him for. He passed every single test. He was wildly progressive. He would call out white supremacy, and the brother didn't even make it to the primaries. So I'm of the belief at this point that there are just certain things that I want to see in a politician that I may not get in my lifetime. And so we get President Joe Biden, who I like. I like President Joe Biden, but the reason why he's there is because of some Black voters, and you always say Eljoy Williams, who are pragmatic, And maybe we would have lost with the Secretary Julian Castro. But what I do know is that there are candidates out there who are not about moderation, and they can't even get that far, even when they hit the qualifications to run for president. And they all had to drop out. And that's the only thing that I'm look at our New York mayoral race. Maya Wiley.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I don't know. So I just kind of feel like I know how I feel, but maybe Secretary Castro did it wrong. Maybe he should have played the game differently. I don't know. You know?
But can I also say too, what frustrates me is the people that are celebrated haven't done shit. Bernie Sanders is like he's just celebrated because he hits all the checkpoints. He hasn't passed a bill in 9 years, and the last bill he passed was naming the post office. Okay, and the big bills the big ideas he's known for, he Columbus those from Representative John Conyers, which is Medicare for all, you know. And so there are people that are constantly celebrated for their big ideas and for their great rhetoric. Elizabeth Warren, you know, I haven't dragged her in a while. She's another one. She was celebrated because she has big structural changes. She has a plan for that. But then when you look at her, I'm like, okay, girl, what have you accomplished? AOC, I like AOC. I ain't got a problem with her on a personal level. She has never gotten a bill out of committee, and she's only been in the Congress when there is a Democratic majority. And so my whole thing is, you can look at the folks who are saying the things that everybody want to hear. They rah-rah, they riling everybody up, but what have they actually accomplished? They're not accomplishing shit because to keep their fundraising going, to keep their audience happy, they have to have this purity test that prevents them from the kind of compromise that moves the needle forward. So my thing is, don't just celebrate the people who are saying the right things and ain't doing shit. Actually support the folks that may not be saying everything you want to hear the way you want to hear it, but are actually advancing your priorities and the policies that affect you.
Go ahead, Eljoy, then we'll go to some calls. Folks are
No, I mean, I agree. And, you know, I definitely think it's also part of how we've built up the expectation of what those who are in an elected office are there to do. We've built up a reputation that those in elected office, particularly in Congress, are big speech makers. They are, you know, the people that speak truth to power on the floor. Like, we'll clap over, you know, like over that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and to your point, the legislators, remember, because they are legislators, right, who are doing their due diligence in committee meetings and, you know, changing language to ensure that it will have a greater impact. You know, and I give you an example, Congresswoman Clark here in Brooklyn, the only Black woman representing, the only Black woman in the New York delegation from New York, right? So only Black woman, right? Like, you know, there were folks attacking her a couple of cycles ago and saying, oh, she wasn't for, you know, the Green New Deal. And it was because activists asked her about it and she was like, oh, I haven't read the bill yet. Right? Because from a legislative standpoint, the title is nice. Let me see what the bill say. Mm-hmm. You know, and then she reads the bill and she was like, oh, we need to tweak this language here for it to be more effective for communities of color, for more, you know, for districts like mine. Right. But now, no, the big headline is, well, when we asked her first, she wasn't for it. She was like, when you asked me, the bill wasn't even drafted. It was an idea in somebody's head. Right. And you sent me here to look at language, to pay attention, you know, to what is in the bill. Is it going to be funded? Is the funding equitable? What are the issues really addressing? You know, but no, the big thing of like, I'm going to stand at the press conference with the headline, but you know, the person who is in the committee meeting, who's reading the text of the bill, who's trying to ensure that it'll be equitable for everybody, and particularly communities that have been marginalized, like, we don't celebrate those things. We're just going off of the, you know, were they at the press conference and did they say the thing? Did they say the thing? Then okay.